Joe, it feels like we have turned several new leaves this season on this program as we have covered increasingly newer media as it comes out. What do you think of that so far?
I mean, it's something you have to do eventually, because eventually, Mark, not saying we have, but we will run out of old stuff eventually. There's only so many things in the past that we can just keep doing and talking about. Only so many times you can gripe about Ghostbusters and the direction it's heading it in, and we've got to just focus on the new things. So let's start doing some new stuff here and there, and maybe lean in some older like favorite-esque things, as in like so there's certain genres that just seem to always be will always be enjoyed by us. I know one that I have loved since a child has been game shows. So I'm happy that we're ending season 4 with a game show.
I mean, it's interesting that a game show would capture both of our attention in the same way that Floor is Lava did, which we also covered this season, which is funny. But I mean, HBO Max, suddenly they're coming out with some original content, and on November 21st of this year, 2024, they gave us one of 4 new shows produced by Chip and Joanna Gaines, of literally like HGTV home renovation stuff. Don't know how that happens, but
No, but
suddenly
I feel like this was a Chip idea.
Well,
Just throw that out there.
some have theorized that Chip was saying that like he came up with it, or the idea came out of watching Jason and Travis Kelce being party bros, and it's like, how do you go from the Kelce brothers to making hamsters compete against humans in human versus hamster? It doesn't quite make sense to me. But
No, there's a disconnect in there somewhere, but just the sheer idea of this whole thing, like, yeah, like I guess like the idea of how do you go from watching 2 people compete against each other, it's like, let's do this, but we eliminate one person and instead use a hamster. And then was there more workshopping done? Like are we having it like just straight on 1v1 like the old Macho Man versus Weird Al's hamster on the old Weird Al show, or are we going to make this more fair for the Macho Man, because we all saw what the hamster did to my man Randy Savage back then. So we had to do something to level the playing field.
I don't know. I mean, I wish I was there for that whole whiteboarding process, where it's like reminiscent of how Shane Gillis talks about how the first person who came up with the idea for the Special Olympics, and he goes, it's like, it's like, no, you can't tell your friends that. It's like, no, you keep that idea to yourself, okay? You can't talk about that. Like the whole idea of like, hey, let's have humans compete against hamsters in a 1v1 situation. It's like, how do you not get laughed out of a room bringing that up?
Like, I remember, can you imagine that pitch meeting of just being like, hey, we've got an idea. There's that Floor versus Lava thing, really simple, kind of kiddish thing that turned out to work for a few seasons. How about we take something else that kids have a lot of interaction with? Hamsters. At that point, most people, I think, checked out. But they kept going. They made it work.
Whatever it is, Joe, whatever the influence is here, there's something about this whole game show format that was like made for streaming television. That it comes from the mind of Arthur Smith, who's a Canadian producer who was behind some of the ideas like American Ninja Warrior. He got attached to some of the Gordon Ramsay productions like Kitchen Nightmares, Hell's Kitchen, and I had a hard time proving it, but I believe he is also behind Floor is Lava and making that production come to life. So, I mean, this Arthur Smith guy, Joe, he's got ideas, and he makes them come to life.
He does, and Mark is onto him. So, like, you'll find a way, one way or another, to prove that he was behind Floor is Lava. And he is 1/3 of the trio that makes the show go, because after that we have Sarah Sherman of SNL fame. Well, I guess I take it back. Arthur is not a part of the trio. He's the producer. When we think of the actual 3 that we're seeing, the one in the front is Sarah Sherman from SNL, known for acting and improv skills. And you'll be able to quickly tell from either her choice of fashion or the studio's choice in fashion. She's one quirky, fun individual.
I gotta say, I think this is more on her and perhaps maybe the producers going like, yeah, let's lean into your your personality, because as a stand-up comedian, as a presence on Saturday Night Live, as you've mentioned, she does bring a very unique and specific fashion sense and just attitude. I mean, her stage name is Sarah Squirm, and it was like a nickname given to her by her friends from college, and as she came up through like the stand-up ranks and everything. So, you know what? When you see her for the first time, like let's just say you had no idea who she was, and you're just watching Human versus Hamster, you're gonna look at her and just go like, you know what? She's very different. I don't have a frame of reference for this person. Like, yeah.
I mean, if for anything, like you could also say that maybe she's someone's imaginary friend kind of come to life. She could be the host of a kind of like a children's show, like somewhere like in the Pee Wee Herman like style of caricatureness. I think she would fit in well in those two categories, because she is just a ball of fun. Like I don't see too many people who can pull off a cheese themed dress. Or I think those are pants. I think those are pants. Very baggy.
I love that you called out Pee Wee Herman, because that's something that she says she used to kind of formulate her comedic personality and her onstage presence. So, Joe, you're not just feeling that and seeing it. Like it's meant to be there. So,
good on Sarah. She's pulling it off. She's hitting that exact note that she's trying to go for.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing. Like in the very beginning of the show, her connection to like the whole hamster competition. At first, you're kind of wondering, this is a very strange thing for her to attach to. And then she lets it kind of come out here that she actually owns one of the competitors in this. so you're like, okay, now I'm not saying all hamster owners are strange people, but it's like, Sarah, this fits you. And yeah.
I don't know what else this says, because but Kevin, her hamster, he's my boy. Is he great?
Yeah.
Not really. He loses way more frequently than he wins, but he's entertaining and he's fun and he's relatable because he's very food motivated. And when food's involved, that's when Kevin has a chance. If there's no food, not his game. Not his game. Mm-hmm.
It's when he chooses to shine, and I can't blame him for that. But as we look at the other side of this, you mentioned there's a three-headed monster here hosting this whole thing. We've got Kyle Brandt, who's on the other half of this trio. I would say there's a duo that really handles it, but
it's mostly
yeah. But hey, Kyle is an actor. He was actually on Days of Our Lives at one point, so he's got that soap opera experience under his belt.
Like sands through the hourglass. So are the Hamsters versus the humans.
Exactly. And the thing is, he's an interesting character because I've seen him in sports commentary quite a bit throughout the years, and while he kind of plays the straight man to Sarah's whatever we want to call presence, he does kind of tend to show some playfulness in his character or his hosting responsibilities. Like at one point, he's like chest bumping a couple of contestants and getting like really into like chanting with them and stuff. And so he does show some weird zaniness of his own as the quote unquote straight man.
And he's very, very much convinced that if you lose in the final competition, the final event of each episode, you are in fact stuck on that set forever, whether you are human or hamster. He's convinced that you are doomed to that show, or to the cage.
Until they release you, which...
I mean, they have to eventually, right?
Yeah. Undetermined amount of time, yeah. But but hey, okay, so just like with Iron Chef, okay, there's the floor reporter, the guy who's kind of in there kind of sharing the facts with you, and that's who Brian Balthazar represents on this show, where he is another commentator. He's not the main host, but he pretty much handles like all these random hamster facts and it's just stuff you never thought you'd need to know.
No, resident hamster expert, and I'm convinced because there's always one event of the show where they just have some hamster trivia going on, and it's always just the absolute weirdest things about hamsters that you never had to know or never thought were ever going to come useful to you. But then, in this one very specific instance, you needed to know about hamsters. Like, I just found out this evening that the hamster's gestation period, 16 days. Just shooting hamsters out.
And did you need to know that? Not today? Not before today? Now you know that.
I do, and now everyone does.
Well, Joe, can you help unearth, because I know we're almost 10 minutes in here and we haven't quite really gotten to the show itself, but can you tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about the contestants and what exactly it is that they're doing?
So, the parallel to like the floor is lava, the simplistic the simplistic fun of the show is definitely there. But then there's also kind of this like odd like most extreme elimination challenge vibe in which they're going to pit two groups of people of opposite professions, seemingly at each other's throats, who aren't really at each other's throats, against not only each other but also hamsters. And there is going to be one large human size event for them to conquer. Meanwhile, the hamsters take on the exact same task, but on a smaller hamster level. And there are, of course, a variety of different things you can do between like furball, which is literally just bowling, where you put one partner into an inflatable ball, push them towards some pins. Then they have two hamsters, one in a hamster ball, another one literally pushes the hamster ball towards the pins so you can knock down the most. And then there's also other things. I believe there's one called Space Race, where you have to run up some tubes, chew through some grass straw, make it down a tube slide, and then run in a hamster wheel, which raises a rocket ship towards a moon. First one to get their moon to light up is the one who wins. So just a lot of really fun, large hamster, like, I guess, doodads or obstacles, for lack of a better term, things that you'd normally fill up their little hamster things with, for the humans to do as well. And we just see who can do it better, the humans or the hamsters.
Which, to be honest with you, I am always shocked at how fast they can move through the hamsters. Not so much the humans,
Not
through the
humans,
obstacles.
no.
Like, because there's the one where it has like the pirate ships, and there's like these three vertical tubes that they have to go up to get to the top and then slide down. And when you see humans go up there, there's maybe one competitor who got in there and just he did the American Ninja Warrior thing and just he knew how to traverse that, you know. But other times people go in there and you could just see the struggle as they're like trying desperately to go up these things. And then they show the hamsters, and the hamsters don't even think
They don't
twice
even
about
sweat.
it. They
No, they-
boom.
Yeah, especially
It's
like I know
incredible.
there's one that's like a peg wall where it's like literally holes in walls and you have to peg climb up them, and the humans
Yeah.
are actually using the pegs, and the hamster just flies up there and is like a fraction of a second has made it up there. And there are ones where like they pretty much all make sense where they're based on physicality, right? Like the one that I
Yeah.
did mention is there's one of those they have to push a car up a spirally ramp. They have to do
Yeah.
that twice, and then when you get the car up the second time, I think you win. I don't think there's anything waiting for you in that one. But then there's the one that seems like it's definitely geared towards the hamster success, and that's where they have three different foods in a maze, and you're supposed to smell your way to the food and then find your way out. I don't know like what sort of weird like scratch and sniff contraption they could possibly have for the humans, but the humans are just guessing and checking the whole time, and the hamsters, they're like on a mission when they're in that thing. I think that one's rigged for hamster winning.
Oh, well, it absolutely is. And this is something that you may or may not know, but hamsters do leave a chemtrail behind, just like an ant would. So when the hamsters go into that maze, they already do have a leg up on the humans because they can smell where they've been.
Yeah.
And now they might go off course every now and again because hamster's going to hamster. Because
Yep.
I love
My boy
seeing
Kevin.
that.
What? Definitely want to be noted. Yeah, Kevin will 9 times out of 10 just do something different.
Yeah, well, like the one you talked about where like the contestant has to bite through grass and then the hamster has to bite through the noodle. Sometimes that hamster gets to the noodle and just has themselves a meal, and they just
Yeah,
kind of
eats the whole noodle.
and it's like, hey, that's what happens when you use animals in a competition environment. You don't know what they're going to do.
No, sometimes they
yeah.
just stop to clean themselves very suddenly. Humans don't do that. Singular minded have to win.
And that's the thing. Like, I think a lot of us tend to forget how adorable rodents can be because, I mean, they a lot of times they are very cute. They've got tiny little legs. They do funny things. And so, you know, the funniest part I found about this show was that I got kind of caught up in that stuff. But then my kids were watching it with me, of course, because they love the hamsters. And we found ourselves like shouting at the TV, almost like Idiocracy style, you know, like, well, yeah, you shoved my foot in your ass, and you're just like where did that come from? Like, what am I doing right now? This is like animalistic that I'm just chanting at the television. But that's what this thing does to me, Joe. I mean, and it's not even the fact that these people are competing for money. Like, if you win a stage, you get $1,000, and then you try to compete for the most amount of wins in a stage compared to the other team. So it's like there's a lot going on here. But I'm just as happy watching what the hamsters are going to do.
Well, that's kind of the thing, right? Like how I said, like the simplistic fun of like the floor is lava. Obviously, there's a payoff at the end of the whole thing, but you're kind of having more fun just seeing people react to this really out there odd situation of a giant hamster course made for humans. Like, there's that idea of like thinking you could, I don't know, maybe like the floor is lava, thinking you could do it too. Kind of the same thing here. None of them seem like they're like, I don't know. It's not like you're watching like a World's Strongest Man competition where you could say, "No, there's no way I could do that." But this I could probably do. And then you also just pick favorites, which is also part of this too, because like I had mentioned, I have a favorite hamster in Kevin, and anytime Kevin's out there, I'm pretty much always rooting stupidly hard for Kevin, and then of course getting let down when Kevin inevitably does other Kevin things outside of trying to win. So you find yourself kind of almost always picking a hamster and really rooting for the hamster. Mark, do you got a boy in this race? And who do you go for?
I was going to say, we love Shadow. Shadow is just an adorable, like, gray and white, hamster that admittedly falls off of a lot of the obstacles, and it's fine. It's not her fault. She does what she's going to do. But I will say, like, what's fun about it is they are asking this question at the beginning, very similar to what Adam Richman did with Man versus Food, which is, which species reigns supreme here. And at the end of each episode, they do keep track of, the humans win or did the hamsters win this time around. So you do get to actually see, like, which hamsters are getting through to the end and, like, actually succeeding. So, yeah, so I would say, yeah, for me, Shadow was just I don't know, she was cute and we just liked her for some reason. But there's like, 10 different competitors? Or I
think so, yeah.
Yeah, I just found that nuts. It's like, for one, how do you get the hamsters to do that? And
yeah, I wonder that too. It's like, do they have to like innately like put some sort of like you said, like some sort of like chemtrail for them to follow so that they know like how to run the race? Do they let them run the race several times before so they just kind of know where to go and what to do? Because I don't see how you can train a hamster, Mark. I'm lost on the whole thing. It's like the flea circus in Jurassic Park. Are they actually there? Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, but to your point, I felt the same way. It's like the circus mice in Coraline. It's like, how do you start to begin to train circus mice? I don't quite get this. And one of the very first parts of the competition is this fake city block that they've built up that's like a 3-story tall set, and the humans have to crawl up like different ladders, and then you have to traverse awnings and all that kind of stuff. And the hamster version of it, you would think, is like maybe they've hamsterized it a little bit to make it somewhat easier for them to do it. But it's like, no, it's just the same thing scaled down for a hamster. And they have to scale the same skiddy little, foot croppings and everything.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how you could train something to get through that, because there's choices on that to go through.
I don't even know how the hamsters do, to be honest, because you look at the humans and you look at like the what they have to like walk on, like it is the length of a foot. One human foot is the length of that. So like having to like saddle like alongside of the ledge, and then suddenly there's an air conditioner or there's like a flower bed in your way and you got to go over it. Like, that's not easy to do when you're bipedal, let alone like when you have to crawl on all 4 limbs and it's still a super tiny ledge. So yeah, getting the hamster to do that is just completely beyond me.
I mean, I love what those, we'll call them like the big stages. I think they've designed them all pretty well to be fairly like heart thumping, because it always comes down to the wire in most cases. It's not like, it's not like there's a big distance between them for like winning a time trial or getting the task done first. Like it usually seems to be a very deliberately close thing.
I feel like the furthest away I've ever seen it is like a human like attempting the last obstacle as a hamster's finishing, or vice versa. One's getting right to that obstacle just as one's about to finish, but it's always pretty darn close. And while these are kind of like the big, like I say the big draw of the show, they're the things that really get you invested into the show by giving you something really big right away at the start. Mark, is there more to the show than necessarily just heading into obstacles?
There are, and I think it's a smart move, I think, to give us a little bit of an intermission event, because Joe, as I mentioned to you, the octane is high, just as high as the stakes at times, and you need to kind of slow it down a little bit. And we have talked about the trivia stage, which isn't necessarily like a head-to-head, this costs you anything. Sometimes the trivia is used as they'll like use that as a tiebreaker, but they don't necessarily always use it in that way. Like sometimes it's just, here's a random question we're going to throw in about hamsters in between two competitions. We're going to slow this down a little bit. But then you have the times where there's the 2-person tube exercise, which is, if you're claustrophobic in the smallest sense, man, that is a tough event to watch. Yeah,
it's rough. And this is in a time where they make these point out where they're events where they're testing humans' ability to do very hamster skillful things, because hamsters, like if their head can fit through it, they're getting through it. That's just how their body layout works. So like with humans, like suddenly they've made something like a large like water bottle that you have to try and squeeze through, except not like a nice water bottle that's reusable, a disposable one with a bottlenecked end, and you've got to literally get your head through, and your partner has to finish you off by pushing you through, and then they jump in and you have to pull them through, then push them out, and then they pull you out. Like, yeah, like you said, if you have any sort of like bit of claustrophobia, like not great for you. And I mean, you don't even have to like other guys to have this issue.
You're a claustrophobic.
You want a fist in the mouth? I've never even looked at another guy before.
Still gonna have issues with this tube.
Well, and I just it creeps me out because Joe, it's up there for me, kind of like the idea of going cave exploring. It's like, you don't have to go cave exploring. You can just stay at home and not do that.
Absolutely. Like the idea of like that is definitely a fear. Like I remember watching at least like one show of some guy who dies spelunking because he's crawling through a tight knit thing, and then literally there's like a ledge that drops down, not very far. It's actually only a few inches, and he like sucks his gut in, goes over the ledge, and then then exhales, and now his rib cage literally is stuck on that ledge, and he can't back himself up, and he can't go any further, and that's where his life ends. That's the bottle to me. I'm not going in that thing.
Well, and there's only one little portion of this that gives me some solace. It's that they do adjust the opening of the bottle based on the size of the competitors. So,
which is nice, yes.
Yeah, whoever is the biggest in the competitors, like for that set of people, that's going to be the width of the bottle to get in and out. So, depending on who they are, that can be much easier or more complicated. But there was one episode where there were two female competitors. One of them was like a CrossFit person, and I can't remember what the other person did. But either way, they go into the 2-bottle challenge, and they take almost a full minute. And so I'm like going, okay, that seemed like fast enough to me. And the next people that came up were a couple of like just guys they called the Christmas carolers. They're just singers. Admittedly, they didn't look like bodybuilders. They were just kind of,
They were bros. Yep.
Little softer
Dudes.
guys. Yes.
Just dudes. Yep.
they got through that challenge in almost 30 seconds.
Jeez.
So it was like, okay, there's no logic I can apply to any of this making sense anymore. So there is some stuff about this competition that, like, yeah, we're dissecting it quite a bit. I feel like it's necessary to do so because this show doesn't make sense at all times.
No, it doesn't. And when you talk about making sense, I completely forgot to even think of the aspect like where we said that it's humans, or like the two teams are going against each other, and then they're also going against the hamsters. It is one team of humans will take on an obstacle against one hamstar, and then from the other team will take on the same obstacle against a different hamstar. And
Correct.
that's how you determine like your cash value, right? In the event that you get a tie going into the last culminating challenge, they do have to score off because only one team of humans can go against a hamstar in the end. So what they do is see who can get 10 rotations of a person being in a large hamster wheel first. And
Yep.
whenever someone's in this hamster wheel, Mark, you can tell if they are really giving it their all, they're probably going, head over toe when that happens.
Yeah, and every now and again you get somebody who can do the cartwheel and they keep running. It slows down a little bit. But there's one other event that I did want to mention really quick before we move on from that, which is when they have the hamstar eating, sometimes it's like miniature hot dogs. And then the humans have to eat as many like somewhat small hot dogs themselves. And I don't think it was Kevin, but one of the hamstars wasn't like small, like lightly chewing on the hot dogs. It's literally just shoving them into its cheeks as a rodent will.
Oh, I think that was Kevin.
Yeah, it might have been Kevin because he put down like 10 of them and just in his cheeks, and like the competition was done in like 10 seconds.
It was like season 1. I think Kevin's only wins twice, and they're both both involve food. That's my boy.
Dude.
Food motivated.
I mean, more power to him, but I mean that's something that I think a lot of game shows screw up nowadays is the variety. And depending on what episode of this show you watch, you could see 6, 7, 8 different events, and that's before you get to the final stage. And Joe, I mean, tell us about that final stage, that multi-stage obstacle course.
I mean, that's like a freaking gauntlet, man. Like you're running through it starts with you like running up through a spring for you to go across things. You have to cross large dominoes that thankfully have like a bunch of foam cubes for you to fall into, and you inevitably will fall into them. You've got to go then up the, I believe it's the pegboard wall, which again, hamsters do like nothing, like they don't even exist. Then you've got to go down a slide through juice boxes, which when it's the hamster, this is also, I think, there's advantages to the hamster because they're clearly just dangling juice boxes that they just kind of go through. Whereas in humans, each juice box, I think they said like 110 pounds. Like they're basically these massive punching bags that are square shaped, rectangular shaped, and just heavy as heck to go through. I think there is a tube you crawl through that ends up leading you to. Oh, no, it's not a tube. After that, it is the hamsters looks like basically a rope bridge where the rungs of the steps of the ladder appear to be marker caps, and they simulate that on a much larger scale for humans, and that eventually leads you to a hamster wheel that you have to, as you're running through it starts lifting a gate to the end of the maze or the end of the larger obstacle, and then as soon as that gate is lifted all the way up, you can then exit the hamster wheel, run out the gate. First one to do that wins.
Yep. And then we know if humans or hamsters are supreme. And I've got to say, dude, it's never consistent how the humans are going to react to that final stage. I mean, sometimes you have people who look like they're in like really great physical shape, and like they're gassed by the time they get done by the end of that. and I don't blame them. It's like it's tough to have to like climb over something and then do a balance challenge and then, hop over a wall. I guess you mentioned pushing bags that are full of 100 to 200 pounds worth of things. It seems more arduous than even some of the American Gladiators competitions. Yeah. And these are normal people; they're not athletes. It's like
no, I mean, some of them like it seems like they've got, like you said, a greater chance of success. Because I think there's one episode where it's firefighters going against each other. It's like these four have a pretty good shot at making it out of there and doing well with this. And then there are other ones where it's like, these are lawyers. These are some guys who go to trivia together all the time with each other, which, by the way, I can't think of a time in recent past where I watched a show gunning for two people to lose so much as those trivia douchebags.
Oh,
Holy crap. They were the human embodiment of saying, well, actually. Yeah,
Yes.
that was them the whole episode. It's just like, Jesus, like, dude, like, I've never also really seen a way where someone could somehow get their virginity back as quickly as those two did.
You could see it on the contestants and the hosts. They're just kind of like, doing this
Dudes.
like too much.
No.
Way too much.
Like, you're impressing no one with this. Like, come on.
Like, why do you even know that to begin with? But yeah, just because you know some trivia doesn't mean you have to memorize trivia just so that you can prove that you know trivia, if that makes sense.
No, I mean, there are two times that knowing trivia does well for you. One, you're on Jeopardy. All right, fantastic. That's awesome. Jeopardy's a staple. Good for you. Other, bar trivia, and you're winning free beer. If you're not doing it in those two spots, it's nothing. Nothing.
I guess not everything can be a positive, Joe, which brings me to something that I thought was interesting. If you go on Reddit and you read some of the forum speak out there are some people who actually judge this show because they're concerned as to whether or not the hamsters are in danger. What do you think about that, Joe?
I'm not positive. I haven't read the concerns. From what I've seen, it doesn't look like it's really possible for the hamsters to be hurt. Their falls are pretty minimal when they do fall. Because like for a hamster in those courses, they're falling a matter of inches. Like they're not. There doesn't seem to be like they're in terribly danger from anything. There's nothing in the courses that seems like they could hurt them. So. Unless there's something I don't know about, like, are they putting electric charge through the floor? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't think they can really get hurt by anything.
I could explain this a little bit because I have read a little bit further into this. What some of the people out there are saying is that since hamsters are nocturnal creatures, are they stressing them out an unnecessary amount by putting them out there and making them compete and all that? I actually don't think that the hamsters are competing side by side with the competitors. What I think is really happening is obviously the commentators are going to commentate, and then they have the hamster do its thing separately. They record that segment, and then they match it up with what the actual contestants are doing. So the feel is that it's happening in real time. I don't think they're actually making hamsters do that right next to these other people.
Probably not. I know like they have like little courses like set up right next to the large courses, but
Yeah.
I've never. I mean, I guess you never really see the hamster in the course at the same time as the human running through things. So
And it could just be the power of CGI because I was wondering the same thing. Like, well, it always looks a little strange when they show the small version and the big version. It's like, well, if these people are shouting at each other, if they're yelling and they're truly competing, the hamsters probably are not going to be very happy. They're very
probably not.
susceptible to sound, Joe, and varying levels. I mean, I used to just own a guinea pig, and I knew how much they freaked out by the slightest noise changes. So
Yeah, which maybe makes sense. Little rodents are. I mean, when are they not a prey animal? They're
Exactly.
small, so they have to be alert to these these loud noises. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't make it.
you know what? I do think there is a little bit of movie magic going on there, but at the same time, Joe, like I said, I'm jumping like a gorilla watching this show. So it doesn't take any of the magic truly away from me, but Joe, we're kind of careening towards what we normally do with these things, which is where we're actually going to be definitive for once. Is this show worth a watch? Does it deserve a second season?
Number one, absolutely think it's worth a watch. Like it's just something where it is fun enough to at least be like, you know what? I watched it. I'm not mad about what I watched, and I think it should be able to do that for everyone. I don't think it's something that is so dumb to the point where like you turn it on for 5 seconds and say, no, this wasn't worth my time. So I think, is it worth a watch? Absolutely. Why? Because it's something different. Do something different. Watch new things. Try something new in your life. Absolutely go for it. Does it deserve a second season? I would say yes. I'm definitely good. Like I'm currently about a little over halfway through season 1. I intend on finishing it, and we'll happily watch a second season. What about you, Mark? What do you think?
I mean, it just came out a month ago, and my family and I blew through the first 7 episodes so fast that we were like, how about we wait to watch the last episode because it's a Christmas-themed one? Let's watch that during Christmas, and then that way we kind of feel like we're timing it properly. Because, I mean, I can't remember many shows that are like outside of Game of Thrones and maybe some very few episodic shows like that where I'm glued to it or binge it anymore. I just don't have a lot of those. So for me, I think it is an absolutely variety-filled show in the same vein as like a Floor is Lava type of thing. And I think that's what gripped me the most about it was that you don't see competitions that are truly ever like this. I don't know of any other game show I've seen where you're competing against an animal, quote unquote. So yes, uniqueness, they've got that in spades. And I do agree that a second season is worth it because, Joe, we've got to figure out who is truly supreme here and continue to prove that. And I just think we got to get a little more out of this, Joe. This idea can continue to go. It'll keep moving.
I agree. For statistical accuracy alone, I think we need at least 3 seasons to see who's truly at the top of this competitive, as a food chain. But that seems odd, because again, no one's dying or being eaten. I guess there's lots of food being eaten during this stuff. Just usually not human or hamster that I'm aware of.
Well, you know what, Joe? I don't have anything to say in disagreement there. And for once, we're not going to try to make this a seamless transition to the end of an episode like we attempt to most of the time. But this season was shortened. We did it on purpose because, well, we had to keep our minds fresh and stay interested in content creation as we have been now doing this for a total of 4 seasons and just a little over 3.5 years. So, I mean, Joe, holy crap! I still can't believe it feels like we've been doing this for a decade already.
I mean, we are close to hitting like 150 episodes, and really, that's like of just the main part of the show. Because if you look at how like we used to do side stitches, or we used to do pop culture, I was gonna say phenomena, but that's the wrong word. Pop culture mysteries. Like we've done more than 150 episodes of the podcast so far in some capacity. So yeah, this has been a lot. A lot over the years as far as time, energy, and effort to try and keep bringing a show that is hopefully interesting to the audience and still, interesting to us to make us want to keep doing this.
I mean, it has been a very fun ride, and I think just to help with both of our anxiety levels, it was important to maybe pull back doing weeklies because, I mean, putting together outlines and leveling up skills to do the art required for some of this, and then ramping up the video side of it as well. I mean, it's funny how like it seems like throughout the 4 seasons of this, we've never put less effort in. There's always something more we've been trying to do with it, and keeping it fresh in our minds. So it's been fun to test ourselves in that capacity and see where we can go with it.
Thank you all for continuing to listen to us. It really does mean a lot that we've had some people who have been with us since literally day one, who are not necessarily family or friends, who thankfully also support the podcast in its infancy. So to those of you who've been around for the longest time, or those of you who are just finding us now, we appreciate for however long you've been listening to us, and it does not matter how long necessarily you have been. If you've just gotten here, we're happy you found us now, and we hope you like us enough to stick around.
I that's really the only thing I can say is thank you to the amount of folks that do come back and check something out that we've done, because with a lot of varied content that we've produced over the years, you do see folks that catch something that came out 4 years ago, like the Doc Brown paradox, Joe, the second episode we ever did. There are people who are finding that now years later, and there are people debating it, going like, no, there's not two Marty McFlys, Doc Brown's not evil, blah, blah, blah. And then there are the people who are like, oh, it's just a movie. You guys are taking it too seriously. and then at this point, I don't argue with anybody. I never have either. But I did say something along the lines of, okay, sure, to some people, it's just a movie, okay? But in some instances, it's considered a film.
Yeah.
A feature film. And then they're like, okay, that conversation is ended. They're not commenting anymore. I'm like, okay, I've done my part.
Yeah.
But either way, Joe, I think it goes without saying that thank you for being a part of this journey in this program, for being here since the beginning. Of course, I wouldn't be here without the two of us. So we keep the light on. But man, it's crazy how fast. I mean, shit, 3.5 years, just boom, like that.
Yeah, super fast. So between topics and hosts and guests, we've had a lot coming in and out of the digital doors of this podcast. So it's been a trip. We hope to keep doing this for a while, and bringing you fresh, new, fun stuff. Maybe bringing back some old friends here and there to talk about things. And yeah, like any ideas you have of things you want us to talk about, we're more than happy to cover. Just keep sending us information, whether it's through email or at any of our various social media pages. We look at all of them, so keep pumping ideas our way, and we'll cover them.
And we will keep diversifying as we have been. So definitely pay attention to what we're doing, even though the podcast is technically going into hibernation for a little bit. Really, all that means is that it frees Joe and I up to do other things. And so I don't know, Joe, I might do another side project outside of the Fallout stuff that's going on right now. I might bring back the video game retrospectives for a bit. We had a lot of fun doing stuff like that. So, I mean...
Yeah. I should probably actually do more digital stuff, since I did one, and then I'm like, I think I'm good for a while. Did one little 5-minute ditty on Transformers, and I haven't come back since. I probably should do more things.
You know what, Joe? It's up to you. That door is always open. And actually, you know what? Before we go, this isn't just like we're trying to wrap up all of these thoughts in 3 minutes here, but I will say I do want to give a special thanks to a couple people. There's our podcast friends that we once were a part of what's called the Apocalypse. Great play on words, whatever. But that group has gone away, and there's only a few of us that still stay in contact these days. But they were very big supporters of us in the very beginning, and really love those folks. I mean, these are people I talk to almost every single day, not about podcasting anymore, but they're great people. Love those guys. And then, obviously, we got to thank the folks on YouTube, because in the beginning, Joe, we did the static image on YouTube for our episodes, and you saw the results. I saw the results. It's like, yep, people are like, this isn't a video. This is
this is like you guys talking. What's going on?
This is fancy audio. This is not a video. But to your point, Joe, since we've really started to focus more on video content. A lot. We ended up growing our YouTube following by 200% this year. So there's a lot more people checking stuff out and checking out the podcast, checking out all the other ancillary things that we do. So as that continues to grow and people tune in, I mean, gratitude is all I can really say for all of it. It's fantastic, and who knows where we're going to be a year from now. We'll see.
Yep, there's only way to find out. That's just please keep coming back.
And
we'll figure it out together.
Yeah, and as self-serving as it is, I mean, until next time, pop culture nerds, keep on dissecting.